Okay, first off, I just wanted to show you this cute little whisker that I got as a gift. They get shed from my cats pretty frequently, and I find them around the house, and I like to keep them in a little vase. I don't know, a little container, so that I've got them always. I think they're good luck, and I think that they are kind of protection for my cats almost. Hello, everybody, and welcome to my channel. This is voiceover Rose. I haven't ever done this before, so I'm kind of interested to see how it's going to turn out. If this is something that I end up liking, it might be something that happens more frequently, but we'll see about that. Before we jump in, I want to talk a little bit about what's on the screen. I am subscribed to Kellyanne Maddox's Patreon, and so some of the pages that you see on the screen right now are some printings from offerings that she has given us on her Patreon. And the Dragon's Awakening course is Laura Daligan, her course about dragons. I mentioned this in a couple videos last year, I think. I have yet to dive really into it, but I'm hoping to be able to get into the course this year with my tarot journal, my new journal. So that's just what's on the screen. This week, I wanted to talk about my tarot journal and how it's changed and transformed really throughout this year. Because I made a video earlier this year talking about changes that I've made in it when it comes to how I'm going to review my readings and just changing that up to save a little bit of space. And also I moved into a new tarot journal earlier this year. So lots of things were changing then and still have changed. The Tower is a very prevalent card in my life this year, just in general. So of course, it's going to affect every aspect of my life, and that includes tarot and my journaling practices and all of that stuff. So I just wanted to kind of come on here and show you, talk to you about my tarot journal as I am updating it. Because if you haven't seen one of my recent videos doing my updated month ahead spread, I was behind when it comes to journaling in my tarot journal and keeping it up to date for this month. I really didn't document any tarot journal or any tarot readings for the month of May. All I did was the month ahead spread, and then I reviewed it. And that's what I'm doing in this video, is reviewing my month ahead spread. Also, welcome to my altar. I think I forgot to say that, but this is my only and big altar. It's where all of my magical workings get done. It's where a lot of my just mundane journaling gets done, and really anything. I do a lot of my tarot readings here when I'm not recording them. This is the place where I will do them. If you follow me on Instagram, you will see this wood and the art on it sometimes pretty often in the background of my tarot readings. Now, just diving in, I'm going to just kind of talk, and you'll see the journaling process as I talk. So I am catching up on this month. I am going to be logging my May. I'm reviewing my May tarot reading, and then I have 3 readings that I want to include and document for the month of June already. So, like I said, my tarot journal is transforming. I no longer view it as only a place to document my tarot readings. It's now becoming a place where it's kind of a catch-all for all of my spiritual documentation. It's where I go to put down, yes, my tarot readings, but also any workings that I do throughout the month, or kind of spiritual revelations or journaling around my spirituality is what this journal has really started to encompass. And it's not something that I went into journaling this year expecting. I kind of used my mundane journal as a catch-all for everything in my life, spiritual and mundane and regular and complaining, just everything. But I have changed my tarot journaling now. And I kind of like that it's been changed. I started off using my mundane journal for all kinds of readings and just documenting lots of things. And it was more for spiritual journaling too. But that's changed because I don't really use my big personal mundane journal very often anymore. I've started getting back into it, but I carry around a small pocket-sized journal with me now. And that is where a lot of my just like daily thoughts and reflections go to. It's where my to-do lists are, and like spiritual brainstorming and YouTube video brainstorming. It's where it's kind of replaced my big journal. And my big journal is now what I go to for working things out, working through things, thinking through things. It's more kind of like my therapist. Like my journal has become my therapist, and that is where that's pretty much the only stuff that goes into that. It's talking about my life and documenting bigger things. It's working through issues that I am facing or things that I'm feeling that I don't really have a grasp on. That's what my mundane larger journal has become. And it just doesn't feel like a place for my spiritual things anymore. It feels more like it has a solid purpose, and it's no longer a catch-all. So I've naturally transitioned from that to using my tarot journal as almost a book of shadows of sorts, or a grimoire. I kind of use those words interchangeably. I kind of like grimoire better, but I don't think that I'm going to use either of those words, grimoire or book of shadows, in reference to my tarot journal, because every time I have had a grimoire or a book of shadows, it has just felt too pressured. And it was never something that I could maintain. I put way too much pressure on myself to have my book of shadows and my grimoire look like everybody else's. I felt like I had to write spell recipes and ritual recipes and everything like that in it, but I really don't do very much spell work. I don't do a ton of ritual. It's something that I am actually doing a little bit more of in my life right now, but it was not something that I did frequently at all. So my grimoire kind of just sat to the side, especially because I wanted it to look beautiful. I wanted it to look perfect, like all of the other ones that I'd seen on Instagram and on Pinterest and everywhere else, even on YouTube. But mine never looked like that, and it just felt disingenuous. It did not feel genuine to myself or my practice. It didn't feel like it was serving a purpose in my practice. So all of those journals that I had started as grimoires and books of shadows just fell to the wayside. They didn't get used. I didn't feel like I could journal in them. I felt like it was more of a place for like documenting. I don't even know if it was really documenting. It was just a place where I could. It was more like my bookmarks, like browser bookmarks. I was just trying to bookmark and keep note of information that I thought was interesting, but none of it really was useful to me because I wouldn't go back through and look things up. I wouldn't go back through and use any of the information because my practice is so sporadic and it's so intuitive that me following someone else's spell recipe wouldn't work. It just didn't feel like anything was happening. It didn't feel fizzy or magical or anything like that. So in turn, that meant my grimoire and Book of Shadow didn't feel magical either. It just felt very pressured and not authentic to myself. So that was a long-winded way of saying I have never been consistent with keeping a grimoire or Book of Shadows because most of the time too, when I'm doing spell work and stuff, I will just record a video on my phone and that's my documentation. But as this year has gone on and as I have been consistent with my tarot journaling now, I have found myself slowly incorporating my magical workings into my tarot journal, just naturally. It will come up when I'm doing a review of the month, or there was one time when I wanted to document a manifestation that I was working on, and I jotted it down in my tarot journal. And I think that's actually the perfect place for them. And I'm going to keep calling it my tarot journal because of that big rant that I said before. I just feel like having it be called a tarot journal and its main focus in my eyes be for documenting tarot will keep the pressure off of me to feel like I have to do more magical workings and document every little working that I do. So it's just easier this way for myself. Yeah, I feel like that's pretty much what I was trying to get across when it comes to my tarot journal, transforming and changing. Now I think I'll just talk a little bit about what I'm doing on the screen so you can see. So all of the information for what I'm using to journal with will be linked down below. Just the like little Ivy printer and my stamp set, I will make sure that they're linked there so you can get them if you want. I like to use stamps and stamping for my titles because my handwriting is kind of atrocious sometimes, and it's easier for me to see or just kind of quickly glance and see what the reading is about when it's stamped on there rather than my chicken scratch. It's also something that I just started doing this year is stamping out the month and the year really quickly in the corner of each page so that I can just quickly flip through. And if I'm trying to get back to a reading from earlier this year, or in a couple years I'm looking back on it, I'll be able to see at a glance without going through the whole page or looking for a date written somewhere randomly when the reading was done. Because I did my June month ahead reading before I wrapped up May, I did want to journal a lot about what had come up for me in the June reading in the May wrap up, but I caught myself and made sure that I didn't do that. And I really just documented what went on in May. I also did a pretty in-depth ritual this month, and wanted to document that. So that also went in my monthly wrap up because it's something that I did this month. I didn't want to make a separate page for it because it's not something that's big enough, in my opinion, to kind of take up a whole page and do a whole spread regarding like, this is exactly what I did and this is all this. I just did a quick paragraph in my monthly wrap up of, this is the gist of what I did. And I think that maybe for my June wrap up, I will take a look and reflect back on that working and see how well it worked for me. After wrapping up my May tarot reading, then I got to sticking my stickers for June. I did 2 readings. If you haven't seen that video, you might want to go back and watch it. I did my typical Celtic cross reading for my month ahead spread, and then I have started really liking tacking on the 5 W's 5 card spread that I talk about in a couple of videos. It's something that I really like to do, and I've started using it with my key card being the first card, and then using that as a sentence for how I can bring about the aspect and everything that's going on in the Celtic cross. It's a little like action plan for me when it comes to my month ahead reading. So I stuck both of those on and just started to jot down my initial thoughts. I like to color code my journal. I am pretty type A sometimes, and organization is important to me. Useful organization is important to me. So I color code my readings, and although I have the sticker pictures of the reading, I also want to document what each card is, just in case I become a whole different person, get amnesia, and stop using the Herb Crafter's Tarot or don't recognize the cards, because it's kind of hard to see the titles in the pictures, and I just like to have them out there. Also, having it written down helps me to see really a good breakdown of how many of each suit we have and how many major arcana versus minor arcana there are in each reading. I label, if you are curious, I label the major arcana purple. I use dark blue for water or cups. I use light blue or sometimes gray for swords or air. I use green all the time for earth or coins. And then for fire or wands, I switch between using red or like an orangey copper color, just depending on my mood. Lately, I've been using the copper color a lot, and I really like the way that it looks. doing it like this also helps me to see which suits are missing in my spreads or which one is the most prominent. I used to also even break down, like, percentage wise, how much of each suit could be found in the reading. I also like to look at how many court cards there are too, because I feel like those convey different messages than just the numbers part of the minor arcana. For this month's month ahead reading, I did have a lot to say, and sometimes I am hesitant to write on a new page, especially if I don't feel like I'm going to say a ton more. I feel like I'm wasting the page, and I just don't want to go out and stamp again the title. So I think what I started doing this month instead is writing clearly, as slowly and clearly as I could, the title of what the reading was about. But I will continue to stamp the month and the year indefinitely, because I think that's the easiest way for me to navigate that. But handwriting out the title of the reading just felt easier for me than continuing to stamp it out, because I was hesitant to write on new pages because of that. And I feel like now in the future, if there is a reading, I will be okay with spreading it out on a couple more pages, just because there's one less thing that I have to stamp on. But I did have a lot to say about this month's reading, and I actually didn't really reference the video that I made. It is only a couple days later since I did that spread, actually, so I remembered most of what I wanted to say from the video, and then also a lot of new thoughts were coming to me when I was journaling. And it seems like that happens to me pretty frequently. Is I will look at the reading and think certain things, and then when I go to document the reading, if it's at a different time or even if it's right after I'm like assessing the reading, I get little hints and messages from the cards and new ideas form while I'm journaling. And I think that it's because when I'm journaling and doing tarot journaling, I'm doing it so intentionally, and that has my sole focus. I'm not thinking about other things. I'm thinking about writing the words down, and it slows me down, which is a good thing, because I think sometimes my tarot readings are really speedy, and it can be kind of detrimental to the reading itself because I don't give it the time that it needs for the messages to soak in. So I do multiple readings about similar topics because I didn't get the message the first time, because I didn't slow down and really absorb what the cards were saying. So journaling helps me to do that. It helps me to slow down and take in every card and really take in the messages. And sometimes if I'm struggling, I'll just start journaling on one specific card that I am drawn to, and then everything kind of opens up from there. And I really get into the groove and get into the flow of the reading through documenting it. The last spread that I am documenting in my journal for right now is one that I posted about on Instagram. And I think that I will have posted about it on YouTube by the time this video comes out. It is my I am listening message. And it felt like a very powerful and prominent reading. And it was such a quick thing in the moment for me. I just felt called, and I was really feeling at peace sitting at my altar and felt drawn to pull some cards, and so I did. And I felt so moved by these cards, this quick little impromptu 5-card spread that I quickly documented on Instagram so I didn't forget kind of how I was feeling in the moment. And then looking back a couple days later, I reflected on it as I was journaling on it, and the message became very clear as to what I'm supposed to be doing and all of that stuff. And it was so interesting to me that my month card, the card that I chose for the month in my year ahead reading for June, actually showed up in this reading. And I think that was also a special and important message, saying that this month is the time to really act and to get stuff moving and get stuff going instead of just thinking things through all the time. This was a month of action. I think that that's all I've got to say to you all. I hope that this voiceover has been long enough for me to really show you all of my journaling. If you would like an altar tour where I show you my altar as it is right now and kind of what I do at it and certain things that I have on there, please let me know and I will definitely get around to doing that. I would love to show you all if that's something you're interested in. My altar changes pretty regularly, typically with the seasons or a little bit after. When I'm feeling like it's gotten stagnant, I will refresh it and change it up. And this was the biggest change that I've made on it so far, and I'm really happy with how it's looking. So that is all I've got for you right now. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope that this voiceover video turns out all right. We'll see at the end of editing. That's it. I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you in the next one.